Okay, in this demonstration we are going to be showing how to create a form, in this case for a preoperative interview, and we're also going to demonstrate how we bring in vital signs into our system as shown on this screen, as well as video conferencing. This demo will take about 7 minutes, and it will show you how to create the elements that you're seeing in this picture. I go over to our CareFlows Builder, and as you see on the left part of the screen, we have what are called CareFlow constructors, and on the right I am creating in the cloud what is going to be shown in the final form that our nurse who does the preoperative interviews will use when interviewing patients. So initially, in the top part of the screen, I have dragged a rich text widget to the right of the screen, and I have already entered the name of our facility. I have entered a URL with a picture of one of our operating rooms, and I have also done drag and drop of different CareFlow constructors for our form. I started with today's date and time, and I here wrote that I wanted the system to automatically calculate the date and time for me, like with an Excel type formula. I then grabbed a yes/no widget asking the patient whether they're going to need transport. Patient name is pretty obvious, it's just a text form that I dragged with nothing special. Drop downs, I click and then I see a list of elements, and these lists can be customized to whatever I want. In this case, I had an example of a drop-down list with just different types of animal species or pets, and I also clicked here allowing the user to define another one in case I don't have one here. These can come from a list that I create on the fly or from many lists that I already have in my system right now. Age, I grabbed a number widget, dragged it over, and as you can see, I wrote the text both in Spanish and in Mandarin to show how the system can take any language whatsoever. I then dragged a constructor for attachments, and I want the end user, the nurse, to attach here a picture of the EKG that the patient has preoperatively. Continuing with my demo setup for this flow, I have another section called Past Medical History, in which I have checkboxes for meds. This is an example of another list, and in this case I only have a short list, lisinopril, metformin. Notice all the attributes that I can set up for any of these fields. Required field, help text, default value, display if a formula meets certain criteria, maximum number of characters, etc. And a cardiac history for drop-down. This is a more complex one here. Same idea. On the left, notice that I have already checked off that I want my CareFlow to have video conferencing and vital signs, so these are all click to yes. And I've set up a table here in which I have time, SpO2, and pulse rate, and I'm going to be wanting to read these from the monitor that's connected to this CareFlow. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to tell it that I wanted to read data every 2 minutes. I'm going to change the name of the button to read new set of vitals. And that's pretty much it. The way I set up to read a value is in the field for the computed value, I say yes, and then enter the name of the variable. In this case, SpO2, or in the case of the next one, pulse rate. And I'm also here time stamping when I read these values, and I've entered the formula now or the @ now in Excel to tell it to stamp the formula, the table in that row with the proper time. Okay, so we're pretty much ready to see the work that we've done on the web. This would be the exact URL that we would be using to start this form. So I'm going to come over up here and ask the system to give me a preview of it. And there it is. This is what we just created. You have the picture that I added into the rich text constructor. Today's date and time are automatically entered. Text field for name was just enter any name. Drop downs, I think this was for the animal species, so these are the ones that we have. And notice that I can select other, and then I can type something else in this field. In this case, for instance, dinosaur. Past medical history. We had 2 medications that were checkboxes for medications, and in this case I had my cardiac history, the list of diagnoses. Okay, let's set up our monitor now. The monitor looks like it's not doing much, but in fact it's ready to be set up. I'm going to enter some information, my username and password, and I'm going to enter the device that is sending data right now. I only have connected to myself right now a pulse oximeter, so we're going to only be seeing the numbers, saturation and heart rate and pulse rate change. And notice that on the right now I'm reading data. On the rightmost part of the column I see how old the data is, so it's less than 1 second most of the time. And you can see that the last time I took a temperature on myself with these monitors was 2 days ago for the temperature, and more than 3 days for the blood pressure. I can also come over, if I click on more details, and look at my real-time vital signs. In other words, actually what's going on right now. It shows me my location, my exact saturation and pulse oximetry, pulse rate updated every, in this case I'm seeing 0.7, 0.8 seconds. You can see where I am. You can see when my last blood pressure was taken. You can see that I'm sitting here not doing much. The body is inactive. But let's go back to what we were working on before. And notice how the system has already begun charting automatically. I told it to chart every 2 minutes. So it's already done the first reading. And I can also force it to read at any time. So while I am reading data from the patient, I can also come over here and do, for instance, an airway evaluation. So I am going to share. I click on share. I share this link with the patient. I send him an email right away with this, and I will be able to then ask the patient to open his mouth for me and allow me to do a Malapanti evaluation of his airway. Okay, I think this has been a fairly quick tour of how to set up a rather complex task, which is setting up a form for a preoperative interview. We've added vital signs to it in case we have the capability of evaluating that with the patient at a distance. This data can come, by the way, from anywhere in the world. It takes about a second. So if you're in California, I could be doing this interview with a patient in Hawaii, for instance, or Tokyo, and we would be seeing the data at the same speed. We've shown how to add video conferencing. We've shown how to add widgets with different functionalities, and we're seeing how the system here is automatically reading data at all times. Thank you very much for watching.